Robert Rodriguez is probably one of my favorite directors. He is responsible for probably one of my favorite films ever, which is Planet Terror. So it was the other half of the Grindhouse films that he did with Quentin Tarantino. Arguably way better than Death Proof, in my opinion. We can fight for that. But I think Robert Rodriguez is super talented, very creative, really gets hyperviolence perfectly, and has just this real knack for creating really memorable movies. Yes, he did do Spy Kids as well. Not my thing really, but I know a lot of people quite fond of Spy Kids when it was out. But today we're just going to talk about, we're going to talk about two things, two updates from Robert Rodriguez. One you might be more interested in than the other. One relates to one of his older movies and a sequel. Firstly though, we're going to be looking at this long-awaited sequel for Alita Battle Angel, which I thought was really good. I really enjoyed it. I think it was, I don't know if it flopped, it might have flopped, but I really did think it was a good movie. Had some really cool stuff in it. And yeah, I've been waiting for this sequel for a long time. So this article talks about Robert Rodriguez returning to this with producer James Cameron. And he seems to think it could be possible, in his words to say, to film the sequel now that 20th Century Studios, which was formerly 20th Century Fox, has resumed production after its acquisition by Disney. So he says, James Cameron and I always talk about how we'd love to do another Alita. That studio, 20th Century Fox, was bought by another studio, Disney, and now they're making movies now. But for a while, 20th Century wasn't making any of their movies. So I think what he means is when Disney bought 20th Century Fox, I think they put a hold on a lot of production, I'm guessing. And now it looks like maybe 20th Century Fox or 20th Century, whatever, the Disney-owned version, I'm just going to keep calling it 20th Century Fox for now, just to make it clearer, is now kind of producing its own stuff again, I think. So he seems to think, okay, well, there's a possibility now that we can make this, because presumably Disney wouldn't make it with their studio, so it's 20th Century that probably makes all this stuff. I think they're the ones who do all the kind of more adult-related kind of films in comparison to Disney. So he says that we'd love to. So that's him and James Cameron would love to make a sequel. Great. I really hope they do. So a sequel's almost confirmed, but pending. So he says there that Rodriguez has occasionally dropped hints that Alita Battle Angel 2 is happening, but admitted development was delayed because James Cameron and John Lando are committed to the Avatar films and other priorities. So kind of makes sense. I mean, James Cameron's making about 100 Avatar movies, so probably can't really give his attention to this. But it doesn't seem like this is dead in the water, which is great. Rodriguez says fans should push Disney to greenlight the project and start production for the movie. If we can, let's do it. A bit like Hellraiser sequel yesterday, you know, if we can do something, let's do it. It's interesting that the director for Hellraiser reboot and Rodriguez are really saying it's up to us as the audience, really, and putting it all in our hands, which is interesting. I wish we knew the way to do it, because I really would like a sequel to both of those movies. Rodriguez has also mentioned that perhaps it comes out on streaming platforms like Disney+. But I want to see it in the cinema. I'm sorry, I don't really want to watch stuff on Disney+. I mean, if it gets it made, and that's the requirement, then I'll take that on the chin, but I'd rather see it in the cinema. Like, that's where I like watching movies. I mean, a lot of people watch streaming, but for me, a movie I want to see it in the theater. So, it sounds positive. Sounds a bit more positive than Hellraiser yesterday, actually. This sounds like, I think the fact that he has James Cameron on board, and James Cameron wants to do another Alita, gives it the power that this will happen. Robert Rodriguez is still a high-profile director, one of the best, but James Cameron's another level. So I think if James Cameron wants to produce this, it will happen. And I think it's positive that Robert Rodriguez is saying that, you know, both parties are up for it. So it's probably a matter of time. But yeah, good. I'm glad it's not dead in the water. I think we can just sit back and say, okay, it's just a waiting game. We can be patient for a sequel. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about, and this isn't good news to me, and I'm really confused, because it also makes me wonder what has happened to Robert Rodriguez. I mean, we haven't seen much from him for a while. I know he released a movie fairly recently, which I don't think was very good, but I haven't seen it. It's on the list, so I will check it out. But what I'm trying to say is we haven't really seen peak Robert Rodriguez for many, many years. You know, this guy was like Quentin Tarantino level, but, you know, more so on the action front. For me, I think he's the best action director going, if he really wants to be. Again, Planet Terror for me, what a movie. I love that so much. Machete as well, like, just came to mind. That was brilliant. So much great stuff he's made. And we're going to talk about Desperado, or the Desperado trilogy, and whether there's going to be a sequel. And as you can see, Robert Rodriguez reveals what's holding back the sequel. He wants to make a follow-up, but there's a major issue that's holding him back. Now, can you guess what this is? You know, have a guess. You might think, well, it's an old franchise. Is there really the appeal? You know, that would be maybe one reason for it. Maybe he's too busy. You know, maybe he hasn't got a good idea for it. Maybe Antonio Banderas and Salma Hayek, you know, maybe they don't want to do it either. And I'm having said that, I can't remember the end of Once Upon a Time in Mexico, so the characters could have died. I don't remember. I don't think so, because, yeah, if there's a 4, I want to see these guys back. Absolutely. So, if you said any of those, you're absolutely wrong. What's holding it back is Robert Rodriguez himself being a little bitch. I'm not joking. What is going on with this guy? So, here we go. I would love to revisit the Desperado series. I thought it was way ahead of its time. It was. It's amazing. It's so good, so fun. The director said, going on to point out how real-life tragedies have stalled a potential for film. What are you talking about? And here we go. I'm just going to highlight all this for you. It's really hard to do today, for me, anything with guns. Gun violence has gotten out of our control. Even those are very tongue-in-cheek and kind of fun. I think he means even those that are very tongue-in-cheek and kind of fun. It's just hard to do. There's always some terrible shooting, and you just go, I don't know if I can responsibly do anything with guns. Now, just take that in. This is Robert Rodriguez. Right? This guy knows how to do gun violence in movies. Super, ultra awesome gun violence, which is fun, and it's a film. If you cannot separate real life from what you see in the cinema, and it's traumatizing or triggering or anything like that, don't go see the movie. Maybe movies aren't for you. Maybe you should speak to a psychiatrist, because movies are fiction. This is not real. This is escapism. So for Robert Rodriguez to say something like that, I think it's absolutely batshit insane. So the guy, his strongest suit, the guy that's built his career on this, feels guilty because people die from gun violence in the world, and there are shootings. That has no relationship to your movie. Is he trying to say that if he creates a movie with all this gun violence, then it causes more gun violence? I mean, are we stuck in like the 80s? Are we back to the, music causes violence, or the video game stuff where it's like, oh, GTA causes, shootings? What is going on? I'm shocked, and I hope you're shocked, because this is just crazy. He's just like, well, I can't do it. I can't do anything with guns anymore because I feel guilty about the real shootings in the world and how I impact that. You don't. You do not matter. These are movies for fun. You create fun movies. That is what you do. That is your raison d'etre. This is the reason you are so famous. And he's just like, I can't do it because I'm a little bitch now, pretty much. Yeah, I'm pretty annoyed. I can't believe this. I mean, he's definitely gone down in my estimations. I think you can't have a Desperado 4, Desperado 4, without gun violence. You can't have it. If you're going to make it and you're not going to put it in, don't make it. Just don't. Just don't do it. Don't do it. The free films are fine. No one wants to see your wokey, triggered, wet version of this franchise. So, no thank you. But, then he goes, oh, well, I love the trilogy. I really love those films. They are so fun. They're like Spy Kids for grown-ups with guitar cases that fire missiles and gadgets galore. It was still made by a kid. Still, the glorification of it would be hard for me to pull off responsibly. Oh my god. Has he been replaced by some insane Democrat lefty robot? Because what? It would be hard for me to pull off responsibly. That does not sound like a human being. That does not sound like Robert Rodriguez. That does not sound like a director that I loved and respected. So I'm pretty upset about that. And yeah, I think we're never going to get a sequel. Because if that's his stance, he'll never make a sequel. Unless he changes his mind and comes to his senses, or the real Robert Rodriguez escapes and takes back his identity, we're not going to get a sequel. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. And yeah, well, at least we'll get Alita. But Desperado 4, no. We're not going to get that. We're not going to get that. So let's just admit defeat on this one. We might be wrong, but hearing those words, I just think that series is dead. And you know what? Robert Rodriguez's career is dead. If that's the way he's going, I don't see him making anything worthwhile in the future. Which is a shame. Anyway, let me know what you thought about the two updates there. Let me know your thoughts about Alita and the sequel, what you would like to see. I haven't read the manga. If you have, that'd be really interesting to know what you'd like to see as a manga fan. I hope they follow that. And yeah, let me know what you think about Robert Rodriguez and his thoughts. You might really disagree with me. You might think it's good that he's not promoting gun violence in movies. If you agree, also let me know. I really like comments, and I will reply to them. And yeah, thanks for watching. If you did like the video, please like, share, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you soon.